Alright, so let's work on some 4-axis indexing. The first thing we need to do is create some geometry, and we're just going to do a simple polygon for this one, probably an octagon or a hexagon. We'll see when we get there. And we'll mill them just using contour quick all the way around about the x-axis or using the a-axis on the machine. So the a-axis would be over here. One thing we need to do to draw on this plane, on the, if we were drawing perpendicular to the x, like right on this portion, we need to flip the construction plane. So what I do is I like to be in 2D. This will force it to be on whatever 2D plane I'm working on. And you could work down here, but if you go to planes and the work coordinate system is going to stay on top, we're going to go to left and put CT on left. And you'll see the green gnomon appear. And you always draw 2D perpendicular to the Z here. So now if we draw, let's say, just a circle and center it here, you'll see how it appears. Okay, so let's delete that, and we'll go into rectangle, the drop down below rectangle, and go into polygon, and then select the center, and come out and click. Let's just do a hexagon. We're going to do to the flats, and it's going to be a 2-inch radius, something like that. Okay. And that'll work for this. We can now hit green check. And then we'll make sure in our levels we name level 1 part. Okay, now what we need to do is we're going to go into solids and extrude, and we're going to extrude this shape towards x positive to the red or the world coordinate system 2 inches. That's fine. Okay, then we'll hit green check. All right, and that'll also be on the part tab, so it's all separate. Okay, so now what we need to do is let's create some stock. Right? So let's do a new level, and this will be stock. All right, and let's get back into wireframe. We can just do a circle center point, and we can make the stock, pretty much whatever we want. It's not a big deal. You can go there, and that ends up being 4.6. We'll end up going to a 5-inch stock. So we'll click out in space, and over here, just type in 5 inches, and that'll be fine. All right, and we'll hit green check. All right, so now we can go into, make sure this level is active. We will go into solids, extrude, and we'll extrude the stock. And this stock, I'm transparent here. This stock is not really critical. We can go like 6 inches. This is, it's just showing you the 4th axis portion, so it's not super critical. So we'll hit apply and green check, and that's fine. So there's our stock. Now we can turn our stock off. We can make it make the first level active, and then turn our stock on or off. Okay, and there's our part. Now we could. We're going to part this part off. I use this part for other classes just to show simple 4th axis stuff. Any sort of whatever sided part is good for this. Basically, in theory, the part will look like this after the milling machine. So this is going to be after we part off in the lathe or a saw, whatever. But this is basically the part. This is what you're going to get from an engineer if they import it. So we're going to leave this just like this. This is geometry we're going to cut. Okay, and then we're going to end up going to toolpaths. Go to machine, mill. Now you should have the generic Haas 3-axis post. I want you to load the provided generic Haas 4-axis mill, just like we did last week. Okay, and that's the post we're going to use. That will be provided. I'm not going to show you how to bring that in again. You should know how to do that. And I'll pause here, and we'll continue. All right, so now that you have the post loaded, we should be good there. Let's start this workpiece. So first thing I'd like to do is this toolpath group. I want to rename this, and I'm just going to we'll just call it stock. Okay, and in this group, what I want to do is just do a stock model. And the stock model is going to be you can just call it stock for now, or raw stock. Something like that, just to say that's the initial stock. It's going to be in the top of the tree, so it kind of doesn't matter, but it just helps us stay organized. And we're going to end up going to model and clicking this model. Okay, now we should be good. That is separate, so we'll hit end selection. And it could be gray, we could change it to red, whatever you want, and that's up to you. And there is no source operations or no stock compare, so that's it. So now we can end up hitting green check, and we'll see our stock. And this will help us if we need to reference it later, and we're sort of overriding the stock setup here. Okay, the only thing to be careful is when you get to simulation, you need to make sure you tell the software that. So now that that's there, okay, what we can do is we can turn this stock off, and we can get up into levels, and we'll turn the stock off. Okay, and now make sure that we get into planes and that your C and T plane are back up in line with top. So this is what you need to see. Top plane is everything. All right. Back into toolpaths, and we're going to go up to machine group, right click, groups, new toolpath group, and make sure this toolpath group, we can call it, milling operation, something like that, mill op 1, whatever. Okay. And now what we need to do is let's do some contour operations. So what we need to do, and actually let's change the name of this. There's a couple different ways to go about this. So let's call this A0. All right. So now what we need to do is let's do a contour operation. Okay. All right, so I'll pick contour, and I'm just going to use my solid chaining. It's probably going to default to the wireframe, but let's just use solid chaining and select this back edge. Okay, I am going to change direction quick, and to change direction is down here, reverse chain, and hit green check. So now I'll go to tool, and I have a half-inch tool in here, but let's just go, again, find a half-inch tool. You should know how to do that. So there's half-inch tool. Speeds and feeds, we'll kick off the surface feed to 800 and a speed per tooth of 3,000, not 30. Plunge and rapid retract and plunge rate we could kick up to like 20 inches per minute, something like that. It's not a big deal. The comment line will be A0. And now we can get cut parameters. We're going to use wear compensation. Lead in, lead out, we're going to leave alone. No depth of cuts. Multi-passes we're going to need. So we'll go multi-passes. We'll do, I don't know, let's just do 8 at a quarter of an inch, something like that. And we'll go to linking parameters. Now, one thing to remember with linking parameters and this portion is all your tools are set to 0 here. Your 0, 0 is here. Everything's going to be positive. So we have a couple of variables here. The depth in absolute should be 2 inches. Make sure you get on something and click. 2 inches. Top of stock, I know is going to be 2.5 because the OD of the stock should be 5 inches, and we will double check that. Feed plane, everything else is incremental, so these two absolute are fine, but these should be incremental, and clearance is also going to be incremental. All right, to make sure that it's coming from, it's not coming from 0, 0. Okay, it's incremental from this plane up. Okay, you could change it to absolute and work with your values, but don't worry about that. Just put those values in. All those values are in here, also in your help, and this is the absolute values and incremental values. Pay attention again. Incremental, depth and top of stock parameters relative to location of the chain geometry. And incremental, clearance, retract, and fleet plane are relative to the top of stock. So make sure you pay attention to that. Okay, so there's that. Everything else should be okay. I'm not worried about the arc filter now or anything like that. The plane's top is fine. We'll hit green check, and there's our operation. Okay, now quick, I'm just going to go into levels and turn my stock on, and I'm going to go to home. I'm going to go to Analyze Entity, select this circle, and it is a 5-inch diameter, 2.5-inch radius. Perfect. All right, so we're good there. Let's take a look at this operation. It looks pretty even to me. We do have one air pass. We'll see if it is actually an air pass. No, it is not. That's the center line of the tool, so we should be okay. Let's turn the stock off. Looks pretty good. Let's verify this, not in backplot, but let's actually verify it. So let's go to simulator options and make sure the biggest thing we're going to need is stock model and raw stock to make sure our stock is actually on. So it's going to look right and verify. So this is fine at A0. Okay. If we verify this operation, and we hit play, and I'll slow it down, it'll go in and mill that flat. All right, so that is one flat complete. Now, some people may say, "Oh, you should go past it. You should, if we turn the stock and the levels off." Yes, we probably should go past. We shouldn't go right to this line. This should be deeper. That way, it gives us more room to part it off or saw it. Whatever you're going to do, but I'm not worried about that for this example. This is just showing you how to get A-axis moves in a program. So we'll pause here and we'll continue shortly. All right, so let's start actually cutting the other planes. So we'll start with this one. I'll show you the first way to manipulate the work coordinate system. It's not the work coordinate system we're manipulating the T-plane. So next thing we need to do, if this is a hexagon, it should be 60 degrees between each flat. So we're going to go to Machine Group, right-click, Groups, New Toolpath Group. And this toolpath group's name is going to be A60. Now in this group, we are going to do a new contour. But first thing we need to do is go to Planes. Okay, we're going to do a new plane. We just go to Dynamic and put it right in the middle. Click the red about the X portion and type in, you can go -60 or 60, whatever you want to do. Something like that. That's fine. Okay. So we'll hit Enter and green check. And do not change the work coordinate system. Make sure the C and T plane have changed. Take a look, make sure it makes sense. It does. We're good there. The work coordinate system is not going to change for the entire part. The only thing that's going to change, what gives you the A move changes are C and T. Not necessarily, they go together, but it's the T plane moves that give you the A rotation. So let's go back into toolpaths. Okay. And let's end up doing a new contour. So go to contour. And actually, let's just turn this one off quick so we got more room to work. We'll go back into contour. And we'll select this back edge and make sure we're going that way. We'll hit green check. And everything should be the same. Just double check your multi-passes and your linking parameters. Everything looks right. The only thing you really need to check, now pay attention here. Go into planes. Okay? So no, work coordinate system and plane. That's correct. Let's hit green check and you'll see the new operation. Now, one thing I want to do before we continue, don't leave this named as plane. We can rename this A60 or A-60, whatever you want to do. It's fine. We'll go there. Okay? And that'll keep us organized. We got a couple more to go. So we go into toolpaths, and we're good there. So let's watch this run. So we'll select both of these. All right? Let's watch it run in backplot. So watching backplot, I'm going to go right click, or I'm just going to kind of move it ISO to the work coordinate system, so like this. And we'll hit play. And we'll watch it run. And we saw this happen before. It's going to go in and do this one flat. And then you're going to notice the tool go ahead and go do the next flat. All right. Goes over, and now you have the other flat. All right. So let's watch this and double check my simulator settings. We are good. Let's go into verify. And we can watch this run. And that would be an A move. All right. Now, let's get out of here and let's take a look at the code quick. Both those are posted. We'll hit green check. Actually, I'm going to hit cancel. One thing I want to make sure to help us search it later is we're going to make sure we click here and go A60. These notes help us keep our programs in order. You'll see in a minute. If we hit G1 and hit save, I'm just going to save it as whatever. And we'll see we have an A0 and A0. Okay, if we just search for A and go through, here we are. Next one's A60, A60. So although we moved it -60, if I remember correctly, to the work coordinates or to the T-plane in Mastercam. So in Mastercam we moved it -60. It's actually +60 to the machine tool. So make sure you pay attention there. A60, A60, make sure they match. It helps you search everything later, and it goes back to A0 at the end. So that's an A move. That's our first index. All right. So I'm going to pause here, and we'll look at another way to index. All right, before we look at more indexing stuff, I want to point out an error that happens, and you got to be very careful with it. So you got G54 here. We go down to our A60, and we're at G55. That's a problem. Okay, so big thing I recommend doing is getting into planes. All right, if you remember from the other classes, we can get in here and you can update the work offsets. So if we go to top plane, go to manual, this is 0. We go to A60, okay, manual, 0. 0 equals G54. Okay? So make sure that everyone we're using is going to have a 0. We can change that in the beginning, but that's really important to see. Now that there's 0, if we go back into toolpaths and we post these, all right, what I'm going to search for is G55. We're going to see G54. If we search for G55, nothing there. So if we go down and we look for that space A60, you're going to see no G54. Why? Because there's no change. Okay, so that's good. So now let's get back into actually indexing. Alright, so we could actually continue every single flat on this model the same way. Moving the work coordinate system, new contour, whatever. That's fine, you could do that. But I'm going to show you a different way to do this entire part in one shot. So we're going to leave A0 there. But we're going to have A60, and we can rename this remaining flats. And what we're going to end up doing is we can finish the rest of this in one shot. All right, and the way we do that is called transform toolpath. Right, so I'm going to turn A0 off. All right, and I'm going to leave this here. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to go to transform toolpath up in the toolpaths page. So select that. Now, in here, we're essentially going to take the toolpath and transform it around. Now we're going to copy the source operations and keep this one, but do 1, 2, 3, 4 more operations in one, having the third contour here being the main, the primary. So we're going to go to rotate. We're going to select this contour. We're going to go to tool plane. We're going to do the source as NCI, okay, or the information from the contour. We're going to end up going you can leave operation type, that's fine. We're going to do copy source operations. Make sure disable posting in selected source is on for now. We're going to do assign new and just go 0 to 0 and leave it there. Okay. And then we're going to end up going to rotate. Now we're going to have 4 instances. The start point is going to be 60 degrees, and they're going to be 60 degrees in between each index. The rotation plane is going to be the left. So let's hit green check, and you're going to see all the operations pop up. Okay, but you'll also see that this operation is ghosted. All right, which means it won't post. So in transform toolpath, you can see that it changes. There they are, they're remaining. Okay, and let's take a look at what this operation looks like. So if we go to backplot and run this, you'll see it does run that operation. 1, and it goes through each one. So it started at A60 and continued through. And that's because of the copy. That's very important because you want, now we could do this all in one shot. That way, if all these flats need to be the same, all right, if all the flats need to be the same, you could have one contour and change all the flats at one shot. You don't need to do them all separately. All right, we could do all this entire part with one contour using transform toolpath. Now, this is ghosted. Let's control and hold both of these on. Are actually just going to be this contour and the transform. And let's watch this in verify just to make sure it looks good. Okay, so hit play. And I'm going to slow that down so we can actually see what goes on here. There's A0, 60, 120, etc. Okay, looks good. So the most important thing here is let's take a look at our post. But one thing I did forget in the transform is make sure you put remove comments on. Otherwise, you're going to see A60 the entire time. We don't want that. So let's just regen that. We're good there. Let's select the 2 contours by holding Control. Hit G1 and post it. And let's take a look at the A moves here. So if we find A, and I'm just going to enter through it, go through the title block, that's fine. So we're going to go down here and we see A0, so that's 1. Then we see A60, that's 2, 123, 184, 245, 306, end of program. So there they are. You'll see if we go to the top of this program, and if we just go like right here and we search for G55, shouldn't be there. Let's just search for G56 while we're at it. Nothing there, so G54 is the only one on. That's good. And everything should be there. All right. That's just a quick way to index a round apart very quickly, given minimal information. Okay. Essentially now, if we go to contour and change something, it will change every one of these flats, which is huge. Okay. So again, we'll just take a quick look at this. I'll just backplot it. And you'll see we take care of this one. We take care of 60. The other thing you got to watch out for on 60, such as the parent, we got to make sure it doesn't double hit. So it didn't. But sometimes if the copy source operation isn't correct, it'll cut that twice, and that's no good. There we are, working its way around. All right. So there's that part complete.